Well, hello, and welcome to episode 131 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, if you go back to our childhoods, the year was 1989. There was an animated film that came out. It was called The Little Mermaid, and it set off like this period of what they call the Disney animation renaissance, where you had all of these just bangers were coming out, right? You had Little Mermaid, you had Aladdin, you had The Lion King, you had Beauty and the Beast. All of these like critically acclaimed, well-beloved films were coming out. And fast forward a few years, all of these films started getting live action remakes. And they all pretty much have, like in that stretch, except for one, The Little Mermaid, until just recently, last week. The Little Mermaid live action remake came out, and we went and saw it.
We did. We certainly did. I'm surprised in a way that we saw it in a theater that was not completely packed, because this film has done amazingly well. Most people have a lot of feelings about live action remakes, right? There's a lot of love and hate around like Lion King and Aladdin, and choices that they made that are, slightly different than the original cartoon. I think they would probably do that with any remake. But this one is no different. There's been a lot of, I don't want to say it's controversy, but there's been a lot of feelings about this. And putting most of that to rest, the box office has been going gangbusters over this. So I'm kind of surprised, because we were in a medium filled theater, but not a completely full film theater. But we did see it in IMAX. And that was that. I will say that's pretty much the only way to see this film. The bigger the screen, I think the better, because you get a lot of the cool visualizations. Like you would if you were going to watch like Avatar: Way of Water, because there's all this underwater cool stuff to see, all these colors and stuff. It's really neat.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. We saw it last night in the IMAX theater, and are excited to talk about it today. But Michaela, before we talk about any movie, we need to get ourselves a cocktail going first, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So why don't we take a quick break, and we'll be right back to whip up this week's drink.
So this week's cocktail is inspired by that sea witch that we love to hate, Ursula. She is nasty. She's a nasty woman. She is really stylish in her purple like makeup with her white hair and green eye shadows. She looks like a really beautiful drag queen. I love it so much. We found a really wonderful cocktail. It's called the Poor Unfortunate Soul, and it's complete with this beautiful purple color changing potion that we had to make ourselves. There you go.
Yeah, Ursula would have been very proud here of the color scheme of this. They would have been Ursula would have been very proud of the glasses that you found. We saw these glasses online somewhere for a different Little Mermaid drink, so we didn't do that one, but we thought that the glasses were pretty awesome. So you tracked those down. Take a look at our social medias to see pictures of those. They're very kind of Ursula-esque with these weird stringy leg kind of things coming off of them, like this martini glass.
Yeah, totally. And it was the first time I ever made bitters. Which turns out is really easy, depending on who you ask on the internet. And so we can thank Wikipedia for that. This cocktail is actually surprisingly simple, except for the bitters. You can probably find these. It's a butterfly pea bitters, which is the thing that gives it this beautiful, like purpley. If you put a lot in, I imagine it'll turn like a dark blue hue. But it gives it this really beautiful shimmer right on its own, but it also adds a very interesting flavor profile because of the bitters. But yeah, let's go through these ingredients and talk about it. So into a shaker tin, you're going to pour 2 ounces of white rum. Now, the original recipe called for Appleton Estate rum. It's got a very interesting flavor profile. I think any white rum will do. We were not able to find the Appleton Estate white. And so if you get one that is Jamaican, I think that is a good place to start. So that's what I did. You're going to want to add 1 ounce of lemon juice. Because there are only a couple ingredients to this drink, it's really important that you get fresh lemon juice, okay? Do not be like I used to be. I've seen the light since. Fake lemon juice is just acerbic acid or whatever it's called. It's not real, and it will not taste nearly as good. So get the real stuff, squeeze it out, get a juicer, Amazon. There you go. So you've got your 2 ounces of your white rum, your 1 ounce of your fresh squeezed lemon juice. And then you're going to add about a quarter of an ounce of simple syrup. Now, this is where it gets dicey because it's you're going to maybe change that up depending on how sweet you like it. But we found that to be about the right consistency and sweetness for us because we didn't want
Yeah.
it too sweet.
It'll depend on what rum you use. Some rums are much sweeter than others. So
Yeah, if you're using like Malibu coconut rum, that's a different drink entirely. But if you're using Malibu, I imagine it's probably going to be sweeter. I definitely felt like mine was very tart, with only a quarter of an ounce. So if you like it on the sweeter side, shake it up first, test it first, and then add and remake because you don't want it to be too sweet because then it'll turn syrupy and gross. Now to this shaker tin, you're going to add 4 to 5 dashes of this butterfly pea bitters. Now, I'd never made this before. We couldn't find it, so I had to make it. I went to the internet, and what I did was I basically made a tincture with Everclear. To make bitters, you put a bittering agent in with whatever flavor profile you want into like a glass non-reactive container, and then you put it in a fridge, and you leave it there for like weeks and weeks and weeks at a time. And eventually, you get this bitter tasting concoction that has this profile that you want. So that's what I did. I found a butterfly pea powder on the internet. I found it on Amazon, and I took quite a bit of that, probably like a tablespoon. It seems like not a lot, but that's plenty. You probably only needed half of a teaspoon. But I put that in about a 8-ounce jar of Everclear, and I put it in my fridge for 2 weeks, about 10 days. And every day I would shake it to make sure that it infused all of that butterfly pea essence into the Everclear itself. And so if you don't have the kind of top to do a shake or to make dashes of bitters as you would normally if you had like a bottle that you would buy at a store, then a couple of drops is all you need. So you can do that with a spoon if you have a dropper or a straw. But 4 or 5 dashes is enough to give it this really beautiful purple tint. If you like it extra bitter or you want it extra purple, do more dashes. But just know that you're adding bitterness into the drink and it's already pretty sour because of the lemon juice. Or pretty tart rather. It doesn't taste bad. It's just tart. So just know that going in. If you're going to put a lot of that in, you're definitely going to want to add more simple syrup.
Yeah, for sure. So this is a pretty simple cocktail. And, if you take the butterfly pea bitters out of the equation, it's just rum, lemon juice, and some simple syrup. So stuff you probably have on hand all the time, which is something that I actually like about this cocktail is that you could throw it together pretty easily. You gave me one of these last night at the theater, Michaela. You brought one with you so I could have it because we didn't get a chance to make these together this week. So thank you for doing that. So I will say it's this very beautiful kind of shimmery kind of translucent purple color. It's really lovely. It looks like something that Ursula would be whipping up down under the sea. But I will say the flavor of this I thought was a little one note there. The white rum I don't think has enough going on with it for my taste buds to kind of cut through that lemon juice. So I think if I was going to do this again, I would maybe try it with like an aged rum just to give it a little bit more flavor and body, a little bit more character to the drink. And I still think that the butterfly pea bitters would still do a good job of getting that purple kind of essence across and that little, kind of like floral bitter hit that you get from it. So I don't know. I thought that this was pretty good, but what did you think about this, Michaela?
I liked it a lot. I thought that it was a little tart because I wanted it to be real purple. I didn't know how many dashes to really put in. 4 or 5 seemed too much or too little. And so the first time I made this, I put in way too much and it was like, it was very purple and it was beautiful, but it was very tart. So I had to add a little bit of simple syrup to it, a little bit more. I liked this. I agree with pretty much everything you said. I love that it's simple. The glass really made it kind of look like it was floating and that's kind of cool. I think this would be interesting with I'd like to do a flight of these with different rums because I don't know enough about kind of the different flavor profiles of rums. I feel like that is a gap in my mixology knowledge. And so I really liked this. It definitely didn't taste like rum to me almost though. It tasted like almost kind of a margarita at first.
Okay.
And then it kind of rounded out towards by the end of the drink. It kind of rounded it out for me, and it felt much more balanced. I don't know. I liked it. I think the I definitely need to take it back a notch, maybe with the bitters, because it made it real pretty, but it did make it very bitter.
Yeah, so there you go. So that is the Poor Unfortunate Soul. It's a simple one to make, and it's worth I think playing around. I think it gives us some ideas on things we can try to tweak on this one a little bit to really kind of dial it in. But it's a good place to start for sure, and it is definitely pretty. So let us know if you make one of these Poor Unfortunate Soul cocktails out there and send us pictures because we want to see what you're getting up to out there. But for now, Michaela, we need to mix up another one of these because it is time to talk about the Little Mermaid live action remake. We've been waiting for it for a couple of years. Got postponed and now it's out into the world and we went and saw it. So let's talk about it. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film, The Little Mermaid.
This is where I give the spoiler warning for Little Mermaid that is exactly like the original Little Mermaid. So if you've not seen either of them and you're scared that we're going to spoil it, you should press pause now.
I'm scared right now.
But in all seriousness, if you're worried that we're going to spoil The Little Mermaid, I'm sorry. The ending's still the same as the 1989 original. So, yeah, if you've not seen either of them and you don't want us to spoil it, press pause, go make yourself a cocktail, go sit through either the hour and 20-minute version in 1989 or the 2 hour and 15-minute version that came out last weekend. Both are worthy of your time. But then you can come back and listen to us chat about all things Ariel, Flounder, Sebastian, Triton, Ursula, Eric, all things.
All those things, absolutely. So, like I said, Michaela, this was just released 2023. It's directed by Rob Marshall, who has an Oscar nomination under his belt for Chicago, another film that we've covered here on the podcast. Directed by him, and it stars Halle Bailey as our discontented Ariel, Javier Bardem as her father and ruler of the sea, King Triton, Melissa McCarthy as her witchy Aunt Ursula, and Jonah Hauer-King as her beloved Prince Eric. Plus, we've got the voice talents, the amazing voice talents, the voice talent here was so great. David Diggs, Jacob Tremblay, and Aquafina as our helpers here, Sebastian, Flounder, and Scuttle, everyone's favorite bird in the land. So, like I said, Michaela, this was based off of, pretty heavily off of that animated classic from 1989, Disney Animation Studios. But that comes to us from even a long time before that, from the land of Denmark. Hans Christian Andersen wrote the original Little Mermaid fairy tale in 1837. And if you go to Copenhagen, you can see there's a statue of the Little Mermaid there on the harbor. It's very nice if you ever make your way to that part of the world. It's definitely worth checking out on your harbor tour there. So, one other thing I wanted to make note of here, Michaela, before we get into the movie is there was also a musical, Broadway musical, Little Mermaid, that came out in 2008, I believe. So I'm going to see a little bit of ties to that as well, although a little bit more indirectly. So Little Mermaid, this came out in 1989. We were just wee little ones back then, if we can remember that long ago. But I remember the Little Mermaid as being a pretty big deal to the kids and the adults around. It was a good time to be alive.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I was exactly the same age as my son is now when this film came out. And I remember seeing it in the theater for the first time. Yeah, it was definitely all little girls wanted to be Ariel. I felt like every little girl I was a friend with had their own version of the thing going on. Everybody on the playground, it was a chorus of Ariels all over the jungle gym. For like 18 months or something until Aladdin came out, I feel.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It was in that prime Disney animation time right there, and it was a really good time to be growing up with animated films. And now I guess a new generation is getting to experience these in live action form, and that is exactly what we're talking about today. So, you basically know the moral of the story here, The Little Mermaid. You've got Ariel, the Little Mermaid. She wants to explore, get out on her own. She wants to see what this other world is all about. Her dad says no, but her aunt says yes, makes her a deal to go to the surface, live her life up there, but she's got to give up the things that make her, unique and pretty great. She has got to give up her voice. That's going to be pretty tricky in order to find true love. She gets 3 days to do it. If she can do it, great. If she can't do it, she's going to be Ursula's forever. We're going to have to find out how that goes. So basically, Michaela, this story is broken out into 3 parts. And we get our first part, which I'm calling the Under the Sea section. But that's not actually where it starts. It started coming in. You got some guys there on a ship doing some sailing, doing some exploring. I think they're seeing some mermaids, just a dolphin, spoiler warning. But maybe below the surface, there is something more afoot.
Yeah, I love this beginning scene is very different than the original. It gives a lot more character. This whole film gives a lot more characterization to Prince Eric, which I really like.
I'm glad they did something with the extra 50 minutes.
Yeah, they had to do something, and they added some backstory, which is great because love is wonderful, but love with a reason behind it and a little bit of substance is also wonderful. And so Prince Eric, he's on this ship. They have just come in from exploring. He's a big explorer. Eric is in this version. He wants to go and trade with other countries and all of this stuff. And he Trembly, I think is his name. His kind of, it kind of reminds me of the Alfred character in Batman, but he's kind of his ward kind of Grimsby. Sorry, Grimsby. He is telling him he needs to, maybe not jump out in the middle of the ocean and go fix pillars that are breaking on the ship because he could fall in the ocean and die. Really good safety moment there. But Eric is like, no, man, I'm good. But they drop a couple of things like
yeah, he's got his telescope there. Is it
a telescope? Yeah,
it's some sort of scope. It's one of those old timey pirate contraptions that they use to look for land. Yeah, that drops down, and that's basically we're going to follow that down into the depths of the ocean to meet up with our main character here, Ariel, and it's really kind of neat. I think as it kind of pans down through the water, following this. A looking glass, is that what it's called? I don't know. But falling down into the depths there.
Yeah, and I really like the way that this scene opens up. One of the things that I was pretty sure I was very surprised that they were going to do a live action version of this film, just because I thought it would be really hard to do well, because there are people underwater. And so I don't have to tell you, if you've ever been underwater, your hair looks different, and it's really easy to animate that. It's not so easy to do like a live action version of that without it looking like this sci-fi derivative CGI disaster. And to be honest, that's kind of what I was expecting. Mm-hmm. A lot of the live action films that have had a lot of animals that talk. I'm looking at you, Lion King. Those didn't go as well from a like special effects perspective because it just looked a little bit animatronic and it didn't sit as well with the audience as the originals. And so I was a little worried about how they were going to do that, but I was actually really pleasantly surprised at how they have the water effects and the underwater effects with the mer people, as well as all of the animals that we meet. I thought that they did a pretty good job with that. And and this opening scene where they're sweeping, it's all these kind of sweeping views. You feel like you're swimming along yourself, which is pretty cool. And you get to see all of these things for the very first time and really open it up with the score behind it. It's pretty cool. And it's very reminiscent to how you felt as a child. We're doing a lot of these reminiscent kind of nostalgic films, right? It was very nostalgic. I was right back in 1989 watching it in the theater for the first time. It was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a bunch of really nice sweeping vistas, and let's talk about kind of this underwater section here. As I mentioned, Ariel is there. She's finding these little trinkets that are falling off of the boats, and she's kind of having this letting her imagination run wild with what all of these things are. Right? It's very unknown and mysterious to Ariel, and we see her there, kind of skirting her father's. I don't know, council, I guess, on what do they call it? The Coral Moon. I guess that all of the daughters, come back, and I guess they have kind of this council thing to report back in on how things are going around the ocean, I guess, more or less. But Ariel is there running around, daydreaming, thinking about what the people are up to. But yeah, let's talk about kind of the way that this looks under the sea here, as it were. So, you mentioned you're kind of going through, we're seeing different corals and different fish, and I really liked the way that this looked. It didn't look like hyper realistic. I thought it still had kind of this like animated, like kind of flavor and fun to it, where you could tell that it wasn't like, they weren't trying to make it like look hyper specific to what real life looks like, but it looked enough like that, and it was vibrant and colorful. And then yeah, the way that the mer people looked, especially Ariel and King Triton, played by Javier Bardem, the way that they're getting their hair to move, I think was probably, kind of part of it was recorded, I think, and then part of it was, kind of, computer animated to kind of fill in the rest. I know Holly Bailey had said in an interview that she was in basically like a dunk tank for like up to like 13 hours a day, like filming this stuff. So I guess they were probably capturing that and then, kind of reusing that throughout the film for different parts, for the way that,
Yeah.
her hair was flowing and, the way she was kind of reacting to being in the water. So I thought that the the mer people, the human actors, I thought looked really good. But then I actually thought that the characters, the animals here in the story were really well done too, because not like in the animated film where kind of all of the fish and crustaceans and things were kind of more cartoony and more animate objects, or not the fish are inanimate objects, but they all kind of had their own personality. These were more like these were just fish, and then these three characters were kind of their own thing.
Yeah. And I love Scuttle. Scuttle is played by the amazing Aquafina. Uh, she really stood out to me. I mean, Flounder is like my favorite of all time, probably, but Scuttle's great. They add a little bit of dimension to Scuttle. Scuttle's, kind of this forgetful, kind of unable to communicate, inarticulate. Is that the right word? When we're talking about a seagull, I don't know how articulate you need to be excited. But she is she has like a whole rap that they added. And I have no idea if the rap was added for this film or if it was added in the Broadway show. That's kind of fun. That's kind of a fun part. It's a little over the top, but I kind of liked it. I don't know. I thought it was great, and definitely keeps the humor alive when we're having the kiss the girl moment, right? Where she's trying to sing and it's awful because she can't carry a tune in a bucket if she needs to. And I really like the detailing around her eyes and like the feathers. I thought that was really special to me. I don't know. I was really impressed with the bird.
Yeah.
With the bird character and the way that they animated that. I just thought it looked awesome.
Yeah, Scuttle looked incredible. So in the animated film, Scuttle is seagull. So we actually don't get a ton of interaction with Scuttle in the animated film. So I think that it was really neat. According to this, Scuttle is a northern gannet, which is a diving type of a bird. So I think that kind of opened the door to have more interactions with Scuttle throughout. And Scuttle looked really fantastic. I thought, Sebastian the crab, I thought also looked really good. Flounder, I thought was really neat. And there's actually kind of really neat stuff, as they're coming to the surface. And there's even a point where, Flounder gets, pulled up in like this fishing net, and how like the color change and how he kind of grays out when he goes above the water, which is something that tropical fish do when they're out of the water. And I thought that was really, really neat, and kind of a nice little attention to detail. I love kind of the character design of Flounder. He's a little more thin, a little more fish looking than kind of that rounded flounder. Not a flounder fish, but he has the name Flounder there. And I thought that was really great, and I thought that the voice actors, particularly David Diggs, who plays Sebastian, who's kind of everyone's favorite little curmudgeonly crab, who's really just in it for love. He just wants to see some love going off, played by David Diggs. And if you don't know who that is, you've probably listened to the Hamilton soundtrack, and therefore you can figure that out there. But I thought that he was excellent, and I really liked kind of the creatures here that they brought to life in this quote unquote life in this live action telling of Little Mermaid. And you get the big musical numbers under there, right? You get Part of Your World by Ariel. You get the Under the Sea musical number by Sebastian. Both pretty fun. What'd you think about the music sections here? These are the two big hits of the
Yeah.
soundtrack, I think, for sure.
Yeah. So I was less impressed with Part of Your World, and I'm not really sure why. I
I don't
liked
know why.
it.
I don't know why either. Halle Bailey's voice is incredible.
Oh
She
no, absolutely. Her voice is amazing. I don't know. Some of the here's what I think I didn't enjoy as much is there were parts of that I felt were literal, like take for take exact replicas of the original. And I thought we had a really good opportunity to kind of give our own spin to this. And some of that rendition was literally take for take exactly the same as the original.
Mhm.
Um, just from the framing of the shot and things like that. It was very good. I will say I was blown away by the Under the Sea number. I was blown away. I'm gonna say
Mhm.
it again. I was blown away. I thought that was amazing. It sounded brighter. It sounded a little bit different. In the instrumentation, it wasn't. It was its own. I feel like they took it and ran with it and did their own thing. The shots were
Mhm.
completely different. The way they had people, the different creatures dancing around, there were different creatures than in the original. I just loved that. I
Mhm.
thought that it was kind of like the way people feel about covers, right? If you're going to do a cover, you have two choices. You can do exactly what they did, just sing it yourself, or what the original artist did, or you can put your own spin on it completely and still keep the heart of it. And I feel that that's what they did with Under the Sea, and I loved it.
Mhm.
I mean, I think all of the musical numbers are amazing. In your face, people that were being haters about this film. It's awesome. But I think that for me, my favorite was definitely the Under the Sea one.
The Under the Sea. Yeah, it is really neat. And it's less cartoony, obviously, but it's still, bright and vibrant and this big choreographed piece of all of the different creatures. They're literally, under the sea. So that stuff was pretty great. I really liked that. And part of the reason maybe that it sounds better is because, the power of the speakers in our IMAX theaters, probably can only come close to the sound of the speakers, in 1989, when we were seeing that at the little tiny
Yeah.
mall theater or wherever we were seeing it. So I guess it also has that going for it. But yeah, I thought that the musical numbers here sounded really great, and that propels us kind of into the third musical number that is going to send us on our way out from under the sea. So we're about to go meet Aunt Ursula. She is there. She knows that Ariel is on board with the humans. She knows she wants to figure out who they are because she went up and saved Prince Eric, much to the chagrin of her father. Sebastian saw her there. She pulls him out of the drink as their ship goes down in some sort of crazy storm that's come in. They're out celebrating his birthday, which is nice, but rescues him, sees him and says, "This guy looks pretty good. Maybe I'll give up my whole life and special abilities to go be with him for a little while." Now it's not all that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But she's very infatuated with this other world. It's very forbidden to her. It's very mysterious. It's very interesting. And Ursula sees that, decides she can prey on it to get back at her big brother, King Triton, and try to make Ariel her own to get one up on him. So she offers Ariel, the choice. You can go up. I'll give you some legs in exchange for your voice. You go up, you get a kiss in 3 days. Boom, you're a human happily ever after. So Ariel takes that deal, but not without a little bit of persuasion in form of song. Maybe my favorite song. It's a lot of people's favorite song. People really like Ursula the Sea Witch.
Yeah. Yeah. She's the baddie we love to hate. Um, she does a pretty good job. Melissa McCarthy, I'm a huge fan of her. It just pretty much everything about her. I think her comedic timing is really strong. And she looks great. Haters are gonna hate on her makeup. I don't know. There was this big thing a couple weeks ago about the makeup. I thought she looked great.
I thought
I
she looked
thought
great.
I thought she looked great. She sounded great.
I thought that her acting throughout the film was really well done.
Yeah. And again, I think really it comes down to, look, if you are not willing to be open-minded enough for some of the change that's going to inevitably occur when we make a live action film, then don't, don't go to the theater. There's plenty of people that are open-minded enough to some of these differences. She's not the original Ursula. She's a little different because she's a different human. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But I really loved this because they did keep some of like the tenets that made her just particularly nasty. Her using lipstick in the ocean. I thought that was great. And the way that they show her like eating shrimp, like alive, real gross, but really good. She's just totally nasty. and her voice oozes the way it should, the way that you'd want it to. I really like this, that they make this deal. And one of the things that I thought that they did that was a nice change was they don't have Ariel sign a contract, because if she could write, then it's okay that she didn't speak. And I didn't see that as a plot hole until last night when we watched the new film.
Until right now.
But they don't have her sign anything. They just say, he's like, hey, are we good? Okay, let's do it. And
she
Flotsam
takes off
and
a scale. She
does take off a scale, and it's still bleeding like 3 days later. That's nasty. Yeah. So the concoctions, I love the ladder full and the different the pantries that she's got, these sea pantries full of things, and she goes a little Michaela. I have to say, I saw myself in Ursula when she's looking for stuff, and here it is. Oh, good. Okay. It's totally me. I just, man, Melissa McCarthy, you're amazing. She can do no wrong to me. I don't know. I loved that whole part.
Yeah, she was excellent. I thought she, acted the part really well. It was kind of interesting because basically what you're seeing of Melissa McCarthy is just kind of her head, and everything else is just kind of digitized. But I really like the way that they kind of did her, like, her creature design, right? The way that they did like the tentacles and the way she was like walking around, it looked very kind of realistically octopus like, as as much as that's going to, even though it's like black and purple and kind of lighting up and changing shapes and stuff like that. I thought that her kind of design looked really good. And moral of the story here is that Ariel signs away her mermaidness for humanness. So she gets her legs, she ascends to the surface. I really like this. She kind of immediately loses her abilities and is basically going to drown unless she swims like 10,000 miles up. So it's a good thing she knew how to swim with those new legs, even though she's a little weak on them when it comes time to walk. But she gets up to the surface, and I really as she gets up and she surfaces. And one of the really cool things I liked about this is every time there was a transition from kind of the underwater section to the surface section, it looked amazing. And there were a couple like key times when that transition happened, when the spyglass happened, or when she came up during Eric's birthday or whatever, and there were the fireworks going off. That first time that she kind of surfaces looks amazing. And then same with this, she kind of comes up and whips her hair back, and you have Sebastian and Flounder are there kind of escorting her to the surface, making sure she makes it up there, and eventually kind of gets caught up in this fishnet and taken into the palace. That's pretty good, Michaela. You just wind up in a fishnet and you get to go just live at the palace now. That's pretty good deal. That's a pretty good deal.
I mean, yeah, that's not a bad way to go, I guess. I mean, there were a couple of things that I really liked about when we get to the surface that happened that were different than the original. Number one, we really get to see a little bit more of the character development of both Ariel and Eric, both separate and apart. I thought that was really a good choice because, I loved the original, but you're not wrong when you were kind of flippantly saying, this girl, she falls in love with this dude, she gives up everything, and she's not met him, she has no idea who he is, she like knows him for 37 seconds singing a song while he's trying to recover from drowning. And you're not wrong. But I do like the choices that they made in this film to really take the extra 50 minutes that this film was and put in some actual, dialogue between the two characters, having them learn to a little bit more about each other's hopes and dreams, and do it in a way where Ariel isn't able to speak. So I thought that was neat. There's this whole scene. It's probably one of my favorite scenes of the whole film, to be honest, where they are in this room looking at maps, and Eric is showing her all these cool places and places he would like to go, and she's really excited. You can tell, and you see their chemistry together, and it's it's so much more than this boy meets girl kind of meet cute that we got in the first film. And I thought that
Oh,
that was really important because a big piece to this, a big additional message that this movie gives is that, just because humans do bad things, it doesn't mean Eric is a bad person. And the
mhm.
same thing with the people, right? So they say, well, the mermaids take down all these ships. Well, just because that might be true, that doesn't mean that all people are the same or all more people are the same. And I really liked that we got to see the things that Ariel falls in love with Eric. All the things that make him lovable are his kindness and his wanting to go and make his country better and trade and learn more about other cultures and go to these unexplored places. And it's not just this, oh, he's Eric and he's a prince and I have to fall in love with him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's definitely kind of drawn out more, and it makes more sense. I think the storytelling aspects of it here in the live action version. Yeah, you get some really nice kind of courting love story here in this section. You mentioned they're kind of in Eric's study there looking at all the stuff, and she knows things about things that he's found, which is really kind of neat, as she's in awe of all of the things from everything that's above the water. He is equally as in awe of everything that's below the water, right? Things he doesn't know about and stuff like that. And you see that kind of interaction, which I thought was pretty great. And then the next day they're off, they're out on some sort of like carriage dates. She takes the reins of this thing, almost kills about 1,000 people, but Prince Eric doesn't seem to be too bothered. Luckily for Prince Eric, the people of his realm seem to be pretty keen on him. They kind of replace like that dinner scene there where Sebastian's running around in the kitchen with kind of the section where they're in like this little village and they go and they're meeting some of the locals. I was kind of curious about that. I wasn't sure how I felt about that because that's so beloved kind of section of the film. I think especially for kids because it's so fun where Sebastian's kind of running around in this kitchen almost getting caught, but I'd actually seen where Rob Marshall actually kind of addressed that, and he felt that kind of that kitchen scene was a little bit too almost kind of like this cartoon like sketch sort of thing that might not have fit in necessarily with the film. And kind of the more I think about it, the more I agree with that. And I think that it's neat on one hand for Ariel to get just kind of thrown in to this big kind of celebration in this market, and just instantly like a sensory overload for all of these things that human people are able to do, things that she's been seeing from below the surface, things that have fallen off of boats and stuff like that, kind of getting thrown into that. And I like that. And then obviously you get the very very romantic boat ride. The plot hole right there, there's no way Eric wouldn't have kissed Ariel on that boat like right away. Come on dude, what are you doing? But they're on the
Yeah.
boat. You got the kiss the girl, which I thought was a really fun rendition. I really like this section here, and I like that they found ways to kind of keep bringing Flounder back. So all three of the creatures were, in the story.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think I saw that Rob Marshall talks about the Le Poisson song not being needed. I don't know. I think in all honesty, I have no idea how they would have filmed it without it looking really hokey because of all the stuff that's supposed to be happening while he's singing Le Poisson. But I loved that part so much in the original. And so I don't know. And yeah, I'm gonna miss I miss that, but I understand why they did it. And I do think you're right. I mean, I really love the scene where they're in the village and she's getting a flower and she doesn't know what to do with the flower, so she eats the flower. I thought that was great. We actually see Jodie Benson. She's one of the people who is giving her like food and showing her how to eat with a fork. I believe that's her. And Jodie Benson was the original voice of the original Ariel in 1989. So that's kind of cool. So if people are like, what would they think? Well, they loved it and they were in the film. So again,
Yeah,
toss off,
yeah.
man.
Absolutely. But after the date seems to go pretty good. They get back to the palace. I really like the character of Grimsby in this. He's played by Art Malik. I think that he's awesome. He's definitely kind of an ally here for Eric, and wants to see Eric happy, and can see the things that Eric should be seeing. He should be like, this Ariel girl just showed up. She seems pretty good, so maybe you should go lock that out. Quit messing around, because if you mess around too long, Ursula is going to catch wind of this, because she's a crafty sea witch, so she sees that this kiss is about to happen. So she's got to send in her little eels. What are the eels' names?
Flotsam and
Uh,
Jetsam.
Flotsam and Jetsam. They,
Babies.
they go they go turn over the boats, but Ursula is a witch with a trick up her sleeve. She's got Ariel's voice. That seems pretty handy if you could just enchant people willy nilly. So she's going to transform herself into a more suitable potential love interest for Eric, I guess. She's going to go to shore. She's going to woo him with the siren song of Ariel's voice. And next morning, Ariel wakes up to the news that Prince Eric is about ready to profess his love. Going to get one of these weddings going on. I really like Scuttle's like, and they're going to throw rice to all the seagulls trying to kill him, which I thought was was pretty funny.
That's great. Yeah.
And yeah, so she goes and she sees, unfortunately, the woman to be, the bride to be, is not going to be Ariel. It's going to be new human Ursula.
Human Ursula. Her name's Vanessa. She's played by the very striking Jessica Alexander. I loved this bit of kind of changing to the plot because even Grimsby is looking at Eric like, Eric, what are you doing? What is going on? And even Eric is like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I thought that was great because in the original, he's just like, I don't know. I'm in love with the voice. This is who I have to marry. And you don't have to get married. I also love that they made that change because you don't have to get married in like 12 hours. You can just announce that you're going to get married. Maybe wait a minute, kids,
right.
The children are going to watch this and they're going to be like, I have to marry the first person I like. I don't know. I do like that they made some of those changes. And Eric is like, I don't know. I don't understand this myself. But every time she speaks, I'm immediately enchanted. And I love that. I love that at the end of the day, you're not mad at Eric because he's been enchanted, but he also doesn't understand what's happening because he's like, I can't find Ariel. He even looks for her. And she's so upset. She goes and leaves the castle and goes and cries kind of to her friends on the beach. And I love that piece where he is still a human who has thoughts and feelings and he didn't forget about her. It's I think a much more like realistic I'm saying this, I can't believe it. It's a realistic take on this fairy tale.
That's right. Yeah, it is. It's a little bit more. It is more realistic. It's a little bit more palatable, right? If you look at the animated
Sure.
version of Little Mermaid, as beloved as it is, there's a lot that you're having to fill in with your own head to make this make sense. So this makes much more sense in terms of storytelling of the story. I think, and I do really like that section. I really like also then Scuttle tells Ursula that or Scuttle tells Ariel that Ursula is the one. She's back. She's this crafty new Vanessa, and Ariel just like swims across the bay and like runs up and just like clocks her, which is pretty great, and steals her voice back, which is pretty neat. Then she gets her voice, which is a little bit different too. But Ursula does not take too kindly to this. She goes full on sea witch here to this party. She transforms back into the Melissa McCarthy version of Ursula. She like is like knocking people down and like walking off. It looks really cool as she grabs Ariel. Then as Ariel is transformed back into a mermaid, everyone is like aghast at what is going on, and then they like dive off of this castle wall like down into the ocean. It looks really neat. And then Ursula is going to have a little showdown. King Triton shows up and says, hey, don't take my daughter. And Ursula says, your daughter gave me her scale, so she's mine now, but I'll trade you one for one. I'll just have you eviscerate you, I guess, is what she's going to do. That seems pretty bad. And then Ariel is not one to stand for this.
No. I loved they made the decision probably because it would have been too scary. That there's that graveyard in the original that she walks through, and it's like all these like living worm things that were mer people that she turns in, and instead she just walks over skeletons or swims over skeletons. Yeah. That's scary too. So I don't know. I do like this part because again, she tries to, she picks up the Triton and she's like, I'm going to kill everybody and I'm going to do all these things. And she ends up killing her own babies, Flotsam and Jetsam. And that's when she goes full on Mama Bear, but it's really Mama Octopus. It's great. And again, they did a couple of things that I think they could have done a little differently because it's almost shot for shot exactly the same as the original, where Eric and Ariel are in the water and they're together, but they end up being on her head as she
Mm-hmm.
becomes this monster thing. Now, she's very scary in the original. She's even more scary in this
Yes.
one. She looks almost like a zombie. She's got these weird gills on her cheeks. I don't know why she
Yeah.
had to have gills on her cheeks. That was weird.
Yeah, and her
Um,
her face is all like I don't know,
grayed out and
like grayed out and weird looking. It is really cool though, as she kind of stirs up the ocean and we see all of like the shipwrecks start coming back up to the surface, which was cool. That was actually one of my favorite visuals of it. There, kind of at the opening scene as Ariel and Flounder are swimming into like this like ship graveyard kind of thing. I thought that that looked really neat. And then she kind of churns that back up here at the end, and Ariel takes the wheel of one of these giant ships and impales dear Aunt Ursula, and thus ending her, and is able to go down and get the trident. And King Triton is brought back, with the power of I don't know, magic, and love, and trident powers and things like that. So he's back. So everything is a-okay here, and King Triton says, "Okay, daughter, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. You need to go and be your own person," which is really kind of the moral here of this story. I don't know if it's the moral necessarily of the animated film necessarily, which is one of my things that I don't love about the animated film. But this film does a much better job of kind of highlighting the importance for being yourself and being able to make your own decisions and things like that. And it really kind of highlights that here as King Triton sees her and sees how sad she is. Should have seen how sad Michaela was then, as he is able to let his little baby girl go and gives her legs back. There was not a dry eye in the house, for sure. As
your eyes were dry,
Ariel, my eyes, everyone's eyes were dry except for Michaela's, maybe
except
King
for mine.
Triton's. He was underwater, so you can't see a mermaid can't cry. That's a quote they put up from Hans Christian Andersen, which is very sweet. So yeah, King Triton gives her what she wants. He gives her the ability to make her own decisions and live her own life, and that's what she's going to do. Legs are back, voice is back, Ariel's
Yeah,
back, baby. Come
Ariel's
on.
back. Ariel the human is back. And they have a really beautiful send off. Again, they don't end with a wedding. I kind of like that. Um, I also kind of didn't. I don't know how to really explain it, because I want they're gonna get married. They're like, she's got a ring. They're engaged. But they're gonna go sail the world for a little bit first, which is probably a good idea. Go live a little bit before you lock it down. I don't know. But yeah, the end was, I mean, of course, it's at the end of the day, it's a dad and a daughter, and I have a dad and I'm a daughter, and it's very emotional. I did like how they tried to kind of bring both worlds together on this shore.
Mm-hmm.
In a different way than they had in the past. Again, I think the strongest parts of this film are decisions that they made that were not exactly the same as the original. It's hard. I think it was very brave for them to do certain things differently, and I loved this piece because all of the sisters are there, and they're all on like rocks, and then there's like a little mer kid and a bunch of mermen, and they're just all there, and they're like, "Hey, we love both of you, and we accept both of you, and we're gonna try and learn more about each other and like our cultures." And it was just really what you would expect in like a multicultural kind of wedding kind of thing. It was really cool. I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
Very different than the original, where it's just Triton and some of the people in the ocean saying, "Hey, we love you, and I forgive you for wanting to be a human." I thought it was a much bolder choice. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely used the kind of extra length of storytelling, and the ability to play on some more nuance and stuff in a live action version versus the cartoon, the animated film. And I thought that was very welcome. Whether you think that something needs a live action remake or not, if you're going to do it, then I feel like this is how you do it, right? You don't necessarily like expand on the story, but you definitely kind of expand on the themes of the story, and make those make more sense. And I think that they did that really, really well,
Yeah.
actually. So that's kind of it. Obviously, Ariel and Eric go off. They're going to sail out to the uncharted territories there on the maps. Maybe learn some new things about more cultures and stuff like that. And that's pretty fun, I think. So that is the Little Mermaid in a nutshell. One of the things that I really liked about this here and was kind of surprising. I knew that the voice acting was going to be good. Disney always does really good job with the voice acting. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. But I thought that all of the human character actors were excellent. I thought Halle Bailey was excellent. I thought Jonah Howard King, who played Eric, I thought that he was really good. Melissa McCarthy, I mentioned, was good. Javier Bardem, of course, is good. He's good in all the things. I thought Noma Dumezweni, who played the Queen, I thought that she was really good, and I loved Art Malik as Grimsby. I really liked the
Yeah.
character Grimsby, the way he portrayed him in this.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely wish we had seen more Queen Selena. That character was brand new to me. I don't know if they were in the Broadway production or not, but I really loved that piece because again, it gives more. It added more just color and life to Eric as a human, and then his whole. You learn more about what he was like, right? He was and his whole family. I just thought that was really great, and she's amazing. I need to see more of stuff that she's in, and I can't wait. I can't wait to dive in to that because she was
Yeah.
awesome. I don't think I'd ever seen. She's won a Laurence Olivier Award for Best Actress in a Supporting Role in a West End run of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. So she's a major Broadway star. That's awesome.
See, well, there you go, there you go. Yeah. So I thought that the acting was really good, and I thought that the visual effects were really good. It's interesting, I guess, to compare it. You brought up, kind of Avatar, so we'd seen like this underwater world recently, and this one is more rooted in reality, versus the Avatar one, which is all just kind of made up creatures and made up
Mm-hmm.
fauna and stuff like that. So I thought that they did a really good job. I kind of hinted at it that it wasn't like super like hyper realistic, but it was realistic enough and still felt kind of like this world that could exist where there's a talking fish and a talking crab and this bird that dives down and underwater and talks to them, and there are mermaids and things like that. So I really like kind of the design of it, and then obviously the above water stuff, which I think you told me earlier, Michaela, was filmed largely in Italy, was very lovely. It seemed like a good place to go and have your castle. If you want to have a castle, go check that out. So I don't
Yeah.
know, this was a lot of fun. I mean, it's not like it wasn't like, mind-blowing cinema by any instance, but like I said, if you're going to do a live action remake of this animated film, expand on it, and that's what they did, and I had a lot of fun with this last night, Michaela.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it really did. It paid great homage to the original. The story itself is kind of timeless. I mean, it's been around for a couple hundred years. And I thought that this is great. My son really enjoyed it. It was a little long for him. But I really am glad that they made the choices that they made in adding the length of time and the choices that they made to pay attention to.
Mhm.
Because I think that made just a better, richer, more well-rounded story. So I mean, I get why they made it, but it was a little long for the young kids. But
Mhm.
but I really liked it. I thought it was really a good balance of being nostalgic and being fun for people who had never seen anything like it before. And look, there were kids that we heard sing the songs, right? I mean, this
Mhm.
is really special, and I really like the fact that we had so many kind of different takes on characters. We hurt nothing. We hurt no one by making sure that everybody's represented in these stories for children. We're not hurting anybody, so let's calm down and enjoy it because it's enjoyable if you
Yeah.
just let yourself. I think that everybody can get something positive out of this film. It's really special, and it was done. It was really well done. I was very hesitant, to be honest. We had talked about this, and it's hard because as we like films and we're critiquers of films, so it was like I really hope that they do this well because it's gotten a lot of slack already, by the haters in the world. And so I so badly wanted them to be proved wrong, and they're proved wrong. And I like that. It has for whatever it's worth, it has the Drink the Movies seal of approval. So there you go.
That's right, absolutely. Quick note here. I said that there were some indirect ties to the stage musical, so there are a couple of new songs in this version that Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote, and there are actually a couple of reprises that he wrote as well. And the reprises I really liked a lot. The new songs, take them or leave them, but there are additional songs in the Broadway musical, because you can't have a Broadway musical that's an hour and 20 minutes, so they definitely had to lengthen that out. So there are some different songs there in the place where these new additional songs are. So if you're wondering why, like, the pacing of that, I think that they were kind of pulling that more directly from, this live action stage musical there on that note. So and then one last thing I just had to say before we hop out of here. Daveed Diggs as Sebastian is amazing. He was hilarious throughout the thing. I really liked the little crab design and how they made him walk sideways, because that's how crabs walk. And I thought that was really fun, and he was excellent. And obviously his musical stylings there, coming off of Hamilton, were really great for Sebastian songs too. So that is The Little Mermaid, the live action remake from 2023. Michaela, it was a beloved classic for a lot of people, and now maybe this will be a beloved classic for people. We talked to some people coming out of the theater last night who said they absolutely loved it. They're getting their big kind of group picture you took of them in front of the poster, and you said that our theater wasn't full by the time the movie started, because people know now that there's like 50 minutes of previews, because you have to see a 10-minute flash preview for everything for some reason. But it filled in. It was about 2/3 full, and I have to say, when it ended, there was a round of applause, which is something I don't quite understand, because it's a movie. There aren't people here listening to the applause, but I haven't heard applause at the theater for a long time, and we've seen all the blockbuster things that have been coming out. So
yeah, no, it was definitely a really cool moment. Because I think you're right. It might have been Return of the Jedi, like in early 2000s, late 90s, when the last time I heard like a round of applause at the end of a film. It might have been that long. Anyway, really good. Really, really worth your time. If you've not seen it, we spoiled it for you. And we're not sorry, because we gave you a warning. If you have seen it, please, we'd love to know what your thoughts on it are.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know your thoughts on the movie. Let us know if you make up a Poor Unfortunate Soul cocktail, and send us pictures, all that feedback. You can do it on our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram and Twitter, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see the pictures of the one that Michaela made for us, the written recipe, episode recaps, all that good stuff, you can do that on our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. You can see all that stuff there. There's a link there to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/Drink the Movies, for extra bonus content. We just had our Andor episode go up just a couple weeks ago, which is a lot of fun to do that, and get some extra bonus stuff going here and there on there. It's a great way to support the podcast. We appreciate everyone who has done that, and we appreciate everyone who has taken the time to subscribe to the podcast and give us a review. Michaela, where can people do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Good Pods, Near Pods, wherever Spotify podcasts are distributed. If you're liking what you're hearing, please subscribe. It really helps us get the Drink the Movies out there. Leave 5-star reviews everywhere you can. Tell your friends. Whatever you're listening to on right now, just press the subscribe button. We do 2 drops a week. We really love the community that we're building. I cannot believe that we get to do this every week. It's such an honor. It's such an honor to do it with you, Brian. So it really helps us get more Drink the Movie stuff out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we do this, Michaela? Let's mix up another Poor Unfortunate Soul. Let's have one of those. We've been on a long journey from the bottom of the ocean to the top of this castle, back again. We found love. We've given up our gifts in the pursuit of finding our own happiness, our own way of life. So why don't we do that? Let's make us up another cocktail. We will be back next week to talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So look forward to that. And thank you so much for joining us. We'll see everyone next time on Drink the Movies. I was right about the dingle hopper, wasn't I?
You were, Scuttle. You absolutely were.